Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid on a crisp Monday morning. It's been a while since I've done a walk and talk, and it always seems like I'm introing these videos the same way, but it's kind of true. But after the quote-unquote disaster that was Alabama, I figure we're due for one of these. And, I try to build the Dairy Raid on scheme, on X's and O's, on personnel, factual things that you can see on the film. And it's not my opinion. I'm just telling you like it is, like you see on the film. I leave the punditry to the people who are more eloquent speakers than me and have more opinions than me. But the Alabama game and the discourse that has come out after the Alabama game has led me to have some thoughts and opinions that I think need to get out there. And so that's what we're going to do. Got some grievances, some things that are grinding my gears about the coaches, the players, and the fans a little bit. So I'm going to kind of go stream of consciousness here and discuss those points. All right, so let's just start right away with the elephant in the room, Phil Longo and the offense. I was leading the charge of the excitement of the air raid offense coming to Wisconsin because I've seen it work everywhere else in the world. But for some reason, the 608 area code, it just doesn't work. So that's leading me to wonder why. What is so unique about the situation in Madison that Phil Longo can't get his offense working when he's been able to get it working everywhere else? So let's look into it. Number one, quarterback. Every situation he's been in, he has had a quarterback that is built for his system that he was able to develop. Someone who is in-house. And they tried to do that when they brought in Braden Locke. Okay. You had Tanner Mordecai, who was going to be the bridge and allow Braden Locke to grow. Again, Mike Leach recruited Braden Locke. He was a four-star kid. He is he is on paper one of the most talented quarterbacks Wisconsin has ever recruited. That's just fact. But we found out last fall when he was thrust into the starting role that while he was a fine quarterback, he was not a starting quarterback. And you heard all of the coach speech that whenever a coach spends most of his time when you talk about a player, he doesn't talk anything about his physical skills. And he talks about about his intangibles. Kind of like what you hear when people won't say a white wide receiver is fast. There's always like, oh, coach's son, smart guy, gym rat, all that kind of thing. It's kind of the approach that we heard about Braden Locke. First in the door, last out the door, knows the playbook inside and out, all those kind of things. So going into this offseason, we had to get another transfer. It was necessary because Braden Locke was not ready to start in the Big Ten this season. And they did. And I don't care what anybody says, I thought Tyler Van Dyke was solid. Wasn't great, but he did what was necessary in the offense, and I really felt like he was going to be able to grow this season and improve, because he was already steps ahead in a lot of areas compared to Tanner Mordecai. We didn't get it. So now we have Braden Locke. He is going to be the starter. The thing that I'm frustrated about with Phil Longo is there's two things. One, I don't think he truly is playing or coaching the offense the way that he wants to. I think they're way more conservative than he wants to be. I think they're running the ball way more than he wants to be. And I think it comes down to last year he got scolded for being too reckless. And then when players were injured and his guys weren't succeeding, instead of pushing them to succeed, it was do what you can with the guys you got. That's how we got very conservative last year. And we're even more conservative now. And what Phil Longo needs to do is he either needs to say, shut up, this is my offense. I'm going to run it how I want. And if we're still running the ball 45 times a game and we're still not attempting to scheme up anything that's going to take longer shots, then Phil Longo's got to go. Because what he wants to do does not mesh, not with Wisconsin football and not with the players that Wisconsin can recruit, but with Luke Fickell. What Luke Fickell's vision for the offensive component of his team is not meshing with what Phil Longo wants to do. And that is obvious. So that's why you really see this year, you could see the defensive coaches' fingerprints on the offense. And if Phil agrees with that, then he's got to go. If he truly thinks that being overly conservative and banging against the wall 40 times a game is what's best for the offense, then he's got to go. We're going to get into the problems that's going to cause later, but that's what's going to have to happen. And so that's Phil Longo. He has got to improve. He has got to bring a bit more of that gunslinger attitude that I thought he had. That is just not gelling in Madison, and I'm so frustrated about it because everything that he does offensively has proven it works. It's just the sequencing and the play calling and the layering effect is not gelling. It's not helping that his receivers pick the worst times to I don't see, I almost swore there, to screw up their routes. Okay? Turnovers, missed blocks and pass protection. There's a lot to be blamed on the players here as well, and we'll get into that in a second. But Phil Longo should be seeing the rest of this season as he is playing for his job in 2025. Okay, whether that's in Madison, and right now I'm going to say I highly doubt it. I think if he's offered an opportunity to go somewhere else, he goes. He's going to go find a situation that works best for his playing style, for his coaching style, and is going to offer him the players that he needs in a situation where he's going to have the support he needs. And there's nothing against Luke Fickell. Really isn't. I like his program building. I don't think they gel. And I think you hear that in interviews if you listen between the lines. So that's what Phil Longo's got to do. But let's say we fire Phil Longo, or Phil Longo is allowed to look for a job elsewhere, and he takes the offensive coordinator job at wherever, Florida, I don't know, wherever. Pick a spot. Okay, who's going to replace him? And not only who's going to replace him, is the University of Wisconsin willing to spend the money that's required to get the guys that Luke Fickell wants? And money is the bugaboo that's gonna sink or swim this program. Because if Luke Fickell wants to get Mike Denbrook from LSU, who's offensive coordinator in those early years of Cincinnati that brought them to the playoffs, if he wants him, it's going to cost Wisconsin $2 million a year. Okay? If they want to go out and poach Andy Kotelnicki from Penn State, who I will die on this hill by saying if Paul Chryst would have hired Kotelnicki instead of Bobby Ingram and let him run his offense, then Paul Chryst would still be the head coach. Anyways, they went out and got him from Penn State, who runs a beautifully simple power spread offense that fits Midwestern values and modern football at the same time. If he wants to get him, it's going to cost him $2.5 million, something like that. I know Wisconsin fans are calling for Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis is a head coach now. So Wisconsin's going to pay his buyout and then have him come in as a coordinator for a year, and then he gets a head coaching job in the Pac-12 or the Big 10 or Big 12, I guess. No. So Sean Lewis is out of the question. Whoever you want to get to come in to be the offensive coordinator if Phil Longo leaves is going to cost Wisconsin money. And Chris McIntosh has got to stop listening to his mentor and get whoever is approving contracts for him, approving the money for the contract anyways, to give him the money he needs to build the program that Luke Fickell wants. So if we go out and try to cheap it out, try to get a position coach to come in, Gino Guidugli, it's not going to end well. We need an established, if it's not going to be Phil Longo, and if we're not going to give Phil Longo the pieces he needs to make the offense better, then it needs to be an established offensive coordinator. I'll go back this way. Offensive coordinator who has proven results, not a let's wait and see. So it's going to cost money. It's going to cost close to $2 million to replace Phil Longo. Regardless, let's say Chris McIntosh goes crazy and fires Luke Fickell. It's going to cost $2 million to get an offensive coordinator who's going to improve the offense. And that's where Wisconsin football and the Wisconsin athletic department has got to start making the decision. Is the University of Wisconsin here to play school, or are they here to play football? In the new era of college football, that's going to be the choice they have to make. Because we can't grow rich and grow fat on playing the crap teams from the Big Ten West anymore. If they want to do that, then I think they need to follow the advice of my guy Ryan from All Badgers and go join the Pac-12. They could beat the crap out of those schools. They're about the same as what the old Big Ten West was anyways. And so if Wisconsin wants to be a power conference football team that has power conference ambitions, they need to spend like one. That includes coaches. And that leads into part 2 of what I want to talk about today. And that includes players. What do I mean by that? Well, in the era of NIL, you know, again, shouting out somebody else on another show. Listen to my friend Ryan on Locked On Badgers. When he has Brian Smith on, what does he always say? Of the positions that you need to recruit to win in big times football: wide receivers and defensive line. And in the day and era of NIL, those big time players, both coming out of high school and in the transfer portal, at those positions, know their value. So, why didn't Wisconsin get any of the big time wide receiver transfer candidates, even though they talked to all of them? It's because everybody else was willing to pay more. Simple. Why didn't we get any of the big time defensive line candidates, and we had to settle on Brandon Lane and Elijah Hills? Because all the big names, one, most of them were 5-techs, but anyways, Wisconsin is offering them a chance to play college football for college football money, while the Miamis and the Texas A&Ms and the Florida States and all those schools are offering them a chance to play NFL prep at NFL prep money. And I know when I'm saying this, everyone's thinking, well, that's not what Wisconsin football is about. We're about education and the value of a Wisconsin education and the development, yada, 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 yada. Yeah, I hear you. But that's not college football anymore. It's not. I mean, it really hasn't been for years, and Wisconsin has gotten away with it, and they did a very good job of getting away with it. But now that all the stuff that, again, your big time blue chip programs used to do back in the day with McDonald's bags in parking lots is now legal and out in the open, the Badgers have got to play catch up. And that's where it's going to be. So if we need to improve those two positions, you need to spend like the rest of the conference now, because it's no longer going to be the case where we're going to be playing against 5 or 6 Northwestern Indiana, Purdue, Illinois bad teams every year. We might play against a couple of those, against them, but then we're going to play Oregon and Washington, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Iowa. So that's part of it. If Wisconsin wants to be a big-time program, and if you as fans want Wisconsin to be a big-time program, then the Badgers need to act like one and spend like one. And we can't say that Wisconsin doesn't have the money, because Wisconsin is a very profitable athletic program. And improvements in not only the NIL department, but facilities are going to be the way forward. All that flashy crap is what the players care about. So we have to get the program moving in that direction. Speaking of players, let's get back in a little bit of the on-the-field stuff here and air some grievances here about player usage, player management, and there's a guy mowing his lawn down here, so we're going to go this way. Okay, and I got 2 things with that I want to go through. Okay, number 1, Ches Malusi, I love you. Your dedication to the program and your dedication to returning from injury is notable. he's got to go to the bench and become a situational player. Cade Yakimelli should be the starting running back. He should be the 1A right now because he offers the most burst, intensity, big playability, and right now consistency. He's also the one who is the healthiest out of the two main backs. And I'm counting him as the other one with Toby Walker. So, Cade Yakimelli needs to start. Or he needs to be the 1A. He fits the offense the best. He does a better job of protecting the football. And he's more versatile. Ches was all of that 2 years ago. And he was that last year. And I don't think he's come back 100%. He's hesitant in the gaps. He doesn't have, unless you just put his nose straight down, he has no burst. So, I'm sorry, Ches. Let's get Cade in there. Let's keep Tui, and let's start cycling in the freshmen. Not because we're desperate, but because at least Arian Dupree, in my eyes, have shown, yeah, he's ready to contribute now. There's a difference between making plays and contributing. I think he's ready to contribute. So that's my first grievance. Second grievance that I want to talk about. I'm going to go to the defensive side. And at some point in the near future, I am going to do a video on the defense. We're going to talk about defensive player here. Jake Chaney needs to go. Jake Chaney is a great athlete. And when he gets in position, he is a good linebacker. He is just so football instincts slow. I need to try to phrase this in a way where it doesn't sound like I'm calling him stupid, because I'm not. But as a linebacker, reading plays, he is so slow. And then when he finally realizes where the ball is going, he panics and he overruns. And he puts himself in terrible position. And I think this is one of the downfalls of Luke Fickell, is he is trying to show loyalty and not rock the boat in the locker room with these older players, these upperclassmen. A lot of them suck. A lot of them are terrible. And yet they're playing partially because they have to. Partially because the young guys are just not ready yet because they play some of the hardest positions in football. But again, I don't think he's trying to be in the situation where he doesn't want to rock the apple cart. I'm really going back and thinking on last year, and I'm starting to think that, I was happy when he didn't go full Dion and flush the entire program day one. I'm starting to wish he did that, because I'm tired of complaining about the same 4 or 5, 6 guys on defense and the same 2 or 3 guys on offense that are making the same dumb mistakes again and again and again that probably should have been gone. And again, nothing against Jake. I'm sure he's going to make a great linebacker at Colorado next year. But he's got to get out of the starting lineup. Jaheim Thomas is underachieving. Partially because I think it looks like he's trying to overthink his job. And he's hesitating because I can see him looking at both sides and not reading his key because I think he's worried about what's happening next to him. But he's slow too. So, what does that mean for me? That means Christian Allegro and Tacker Curtis need to be the starting inside linebackers, and they don't leave the field unless they have to. They bring speed, they bring aggressiveness, and they bring an innate sense that they are learning the defense within the structure. And they are going to make young player mistakes, no doubt. But I would rather them making young player mistakes that are correctable than watching older players make bad instinctual mistakes that can't be corrected because you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So that's why I want to see some of those young guys play. Same thing on the defensive line. You know, the three returning guys are just not good. So, I don't know. I mean, we've got young guys who are not ready. Does that mean we have to thrust them in and either be in a position where we could be one bad game from those guys away from complete catastrophe and ruin them for the next 3 years? I don't think I want to go down that line, but something's got to change. Speaking of changes to the defense, let's talk about this part. I put up a poll on my Twitter here the other day, asking the fans, in their opinion, based on what they see, what percentage of plays this season have the Badgers been in a 3-3 defense? And luckily, of the 4 options I gave, which was under 24%, between 25 and 74, above 75, I forgot what the 4th option was. Anyways, you know what I mean? We picked the lowest one, the up to 24%, which was correct. The real answer is 0. They have been in exactly 0 3-3-5 sets this season, which is one of those things that grinds my gears and why I started this whole channel to begin with. Is fans and now pundits are complaining about something that's not happening. 3-3 defense doesn't work at Wisconsin. They need to stop. We haven't run the 3-3 defense. So now, lately, fans have noticed, oh, they're not in the 3-3, they're in the 2-4. And when has the 2-4 defense ever worked in college football? To which I answered, Wisconsin football, circa 2013 to 2022. The 2-4 set has been Wisconsin's base nickel defense for a decade. And when the Badgers were a vaunted 3-4 defense, we knew that because when the Badgers put out their starting defense on the depth chart, we saw 3 defensive linemen. The percentage that they were actually in that set was very low. Why? Because the majority of the teams that we played against, even back then, were spread or spread adjacent teams, running 11 personnel, etc. And when Badgers played against teams that either, one, came out in pro-style sets with multiple backs or multiple tight ends, or they played against teams that they didn't respect at all, that they could match up cover 1 with linebackers and safeties, they were in the 3-4. But as the years went on, the Badgers were less and less in the 3-4 and more in the 2-4. So on paper, their base defense was a 3-4, but playing against the offenses they played against, they were in a 2-4. I find it interesting, though. I went back, and then this is going to be another video that I want to do. Looking back at the 2015 game against Alabama, I saw 3-3-5 sets in there because back then, that's what our defensive coordinator had as one of his nickel sets. He changed it to the 2-4 when he came to Wisconsin because it fit the players better. So, why are we seeing so much 2-4? Well, in the past decade, those are the type of players that Wisconsin has recruited. So that's what they fit best. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. 2, we don't have the defensive linemen capable of running a 3-man front consistently. And our best 11 players on the field are on the field when we are in a 2-4 front. Simple. So, I know as Badger fans, we don't like change. But there comes a time when we need to stop complaining about changes that didn't happen. Hell, a lot of the plays we're running offensively this year, we've run for years, even in shotgun. Okay, hell, look at the 2021 Big Ten Championship, 2020 Big Ten Championship game against Ohio State. Look at all the shotgun outside zones we ran in that game and how good we did with them until we stopped doing it. Anyways, so we need to stop complaining about things that aren't problems. Problems we should be talking about is the reason why the defense isn't working is because defensive players suck and they're not performing. And instead of complaining, oh, why didn't we do this? Look at what we did do. And again, I'll point out an example that I found on the weekend where it was the touchdown that Jalen Milrose ran and complaining about the defensive structure. Like, why are we set up this way? Why is why is John Pius shooting inside? And why is Preston Zachman the force guy? And I get it. That looks frustrating. When you look at the defensive structure, it's how 95% of defensive coaches are going to read it. I think Pius was either on a slant, and if he wasn't on him, and that's why he was aggressive. But if he wasn't on a slant, he's reading the tackle, he's in the B gap. Zachman is supposed to be the force. He's supposed to keep everything inside, which he did. And the linebackers are supposed to fill. And they didn't. Because Pius went downhill in the gap like he's supposed to, and Jake Chaney slowly read it and wasn't there coming across the field. And that's not to say that the point that was brought up was wrong. On the outside, it looks wrong. But if you rotate the defensive structure, you make yourself vulnerable in other areas. And if they would have beat us on a speed option to the 3 receiver side, or ran a bubble screen, or an RPO because our linebackers were out of place, we'd be making the same complaints because we want to complain about anything that's different. And that's what we're going to do. So that's my grievance with the fans a little bit. It's been tough for me this week, or this season so far, really trying to be a fan of Wisconsin football, but also try to me, coaching football has ruined my ability to be a fan of football. And it's why a lot of times I seem to be too optimistic, and I always seem to have an answer that goes beyond Phil Longo sucks, and Mike Tressel sucks, and Luke Fickell sucks. When I have a football explanation of how things can get better and how things went wrong, it's because that's how I see the game. I wish I can just sit back and say, yeah, the Badgers suck. Fire everybody. I didn't like Paul Chryst towards the end for the longest time because I thought his scheme was terrible. And I thought his decision-making was terrible. But it came a lot down. He's not giving his players much to work with. So when change happened, I was excited that change was happening. But now as I watch it, I see the growing pains and all of the things that fans hate to hear because fans want immediate success. And I totally get that. I understand. But it's not the real world a lot of the time. It could be if it was the right situation, which I don't think it was. Maybe Luke Fickell isn't the guy to lead Wisconsin into the playoff era of college football, the NIL era. However, it was a change that needed to happen. And the next guy coming in needs to be prepared to be in that landscape. He also needs to be prepared to be in a landscape that if he is anything but a Wisconsin alum, that everything he's going to do is going to be wrong. And he's got to accept that because Wisconsin fans are passionate and they know what they like. And what they like is the answer to every problem. Just how fans should be. I'm not dogging it. From a football standpoint, it's dead wrong. But it's exactly how fans should be thinking. So Luke Fickell has some serious questions to answer with himself and the coaching staff for the rest of the season and going into next year. I think TVD getting hurt is going to buy him an extra year. And fans, we can choose to go down the fatalistic route and be almost excited that our team is doing bad. And there's a lot of you out there who are like that are excited that Wisconsin's doing bad. It almost reminds me of Chicago Cubs fans. So he's got to make decisions. I think he's done a lot of good things for the program in terms of setting up the program, recruiting department, infrastructure, facilities, all the things that Paul Chryst didn't do or didn't push for. He has been good with that. On the field needs to get a lot better, and he's going to need to make tough decisions. But if there's going to be tough decisions to be made, the university needs to be willing to pay for those changes because the changes are going to be the same anyways. If you fire Luke Fickell, you're going to have to spend that money on a new staff anyways, and the new staff is going to be more expensive than the current staff. So that's where the university steps in. The players, the young guys have got to be ready to play now, play early, and the leaders on the team need to kick those old boys in the ass a little bit, and 2025 has to start now. That's how it's going to be. All right, so I think you've heard enough of me talking here. Jesus, I'm talking for almost 40 minutes here. So heads up for the rest of the week. Alabama breakdown. I will be recording tomorrow morning. Still waiting to get my all 11. If I don't get it, then I've got the broadcast angle ready to go. I want to get that all done early this week because I have my own playoffs this weekend, so I can't be spending all my time doing the dairy raid. I've got to actually do my day job, which I'm getting paid the big bucks, such big bucks that I spent half my monthly salary buying a lav mic. Shows you that. Anyways, we'll get that out next week. It being a bye week, I have a couple irons in the fire, but a lot of it's going to have to do with whether my season's extended after this weekend. So we'll have to see about that. Until then, breakdowns hopefully this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I can get some good film, I'll get my Good, the Bad, and the Ugly done, probably for release on Tuesday morning, and we'll go from there. All right, so that's me talking for almost 40 minutes. If you hung out this far, thank you very much. I don't do this for my health. I do it because you people out there enjoy it, and keep doing so. All right, so that's it for this Morning Constitutional. We'll see you next time.